All right. Hello. Welcome. Welcome to Black Girl Recovering. And I thank you so much, Ayana, for wanting to be a part of this with me. And the reason why I wanted to interview you so much is because you represent for me, um, you represent recovery for me. Um, and what you are doing for the community is beautiful. And I will want you to talk about what you're doing for community. Um, but I want folks to know that you are the resource. You're the resource that finds resources, and you do not hesitate sharing them out. And you have made me aware of so many resources in the community and beyond that I had no knowledge of that's available to veterans. I'm a veteran, and I didn't know all that's out there. And a lot of it is for free for veterans. And so that is why I wanted to invite you into this space to talk about all that you're doing. But first, I want to let folks know that Ayana Brown, that you are a Navy vet. I have wanted you to be Army for so long. I've implanted in my head that you're Army vet, and you are not. You're Navy, and that's okay. I still love you.
Okay.
Uh, but
Wow.
not only are you a veteran, you are a wife, you're a
Mhm,
mom, you're a peer support specialist, and I
mhm,
want you to talk to us about why that you decided that that's what you needed to be. Because to
mhm,
me, a peer support specialist is a calling to me.
mhm.
Um, and also, you're a caregiver. You're a
Oh, yeah.
caregiver for your mom
Mhm.
out of state.
Yeah.
So could you do us a favor and give us an introduction into your business, um, Reach Peer Support Services? Can you tell us about what was the inspiration that drove you to create Reach?
Well, thank you again for having me. That's number one. Um, and you pretty much said everything. So there's not much else to say about what I do. As far as being a wife, also a military spouse at that, and a caregiver, technically times two, because we're also caring for my mother-in-law, if you can imagine.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it is an adventure.
Hmm.
And the reason why I started Reach, of course, at the time, the acronym was resiliency, and I've talked about how I'm kind of over that word because I realize that that's not what I what I encompass anymore. I'm kind of tired of being resilient.
Mm,
However, let's do the R for recovery, for just revamping, if you will, education, advocacy, community, and healing.
yeah.
I knew that I wanted to be a peer support. Well, actually, it was suggested to me by the peer support that I met while my husband was stationed in San Diego, and I started seeking services finally. So that was what, almost 10 years after I got out, that I finally started seeking and receiving services. And that's when I learned about what a peer support specialist is.
Hmm.
And for those who don't know, the the least I can say about it, a minimal definition would be someone who's in recovery, whether it's mental health like me, or some people are in recovery from addictions.
Yeah.
Those would be like the RSP, the recovery support peer specialists. And they even have forensic peer specialists also that work in tandem with the courts, the judicial system, for those who are justice involved. But as somebody who got in trouble, somebody who needed help,
Yeah.
somebody who has a mental health diagnosis,
Hmm.
and qualified as a peer specialist by getting references from the doctors and from other people and decide to go and get the training. So for me, I'm actually certified for the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
What that does was you
Wow.
get state certified, and I put emphasis on that for a reason. In the military veteran community, there are many organizations that have peers. They'll say, hey, do
Mm-hmm.
you want to be connected with a peer leader, or peers, what have you? The difference that I have experienced is when a person is trained or not. Some people, they might go through a couple of days training. Peer specialist training was extensive. It's a lot of
Yeah.
hours. It's some money involved.
Yeah.
It's definitely not free, and to get the certification. And what that does, for one, it actually makes it so that my work I can bill Medicaid for,
Mm-hmm.
versus somebody who is a peer specialist, say for instance, and I'm thinking about a female veterans organization that I won't name right now. I
Mm-hmm.
was trained as a peer leader for them as well, and I can tell you the training is night and day. I had a couple of days with them, which was still great for what we were doing, but I had no idea what a certified peer had to go through to get
Yeah.
that training and that certification from the state.
Mm-hmm. It is extensive. I am aware. I did work for an organization some years ago, and it was at the beginnings of
Mhm,
the peer movement.
mhm,
And we had quite a few people go through the training to become peer support specialists, and it is involved and it is intensive.
mhm.
Thank you
Yeah.
for deciding that that was something that, and I call it like a need to have,
Mhm,
because it educates you to
mm.
be aware of what it means to be a peer and how that peer relationship develops. So I thank you for taking the time to actually do that and become
Appreciate it.
certified.
Yeah.
Well, ma'am, I do have a couple of questions to ask you.
Cool.
Um, But before I do have some that I come up with, but as you were talking, something just struck me. So when you were in the military,
Mhm.
um, did you struggle with your mental health?
Oh, absolutely.
Eh,
Absolutely.
Tell
Yeah.
me, during those struggles, was there an awareness that it was like a mental health kind of issue, or was it more along the line of what is wrong with me?
Mm. It was what is wrong with me. I was struggling, and of course then you hear as well as culture shock, or as you're missing home, or in my case, I was told I was bitter, right?
Mm,
I was in the Navy's nuclear program, and I
mhm.
struggled through that whole thing. I graduated by the grace of God, but it was not easy for me at all.
Yeah.
For me, it was definitely a lot of what I realize now was anxiety. I
Mm,
had test anxiety before I even joined the military. And when you're in a test intensive program like that, that didn't help.
yeah.
And for me, some people it might not have been a big deal to them, but for me, this passing every single one of those tests meant either I stay or I had to go back home.
Hmm.
So that's what it was for me. So now looking back, because I forgot to mention, I'm currently in school to become a licensed mental health counselor.
Yeah.
Now I understand the definition and the reasoning behind, for instance, anxiety.
Yeah.
And of course, I've also dealt with postpartum depression after having my son.
Hmm.
That was actually mentioned in my records. But there was also the stigma of you better not go see anybody while you're
Yes.
enlisted. You don't want to
Yeah.
do that, or if you do, you don't want them to find out about it.
Yes.
So you just try to deal with it the best that you can.
Hmm. And because that's the culture,
Yeah.
you suck it up and drive on, soldier. That's what kind of like the message that we got in the army. You just kept it tight and kept
Absolutely.
it close to your chest, though. And
Mhm.
so. now I do. I wanted to ask you about um, the fact that your journey is so incredible and multifaceted from serving in the Navy
Hmm.
to becoming a peer support specialist
Hmm.
and a small business owner.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the path that led you to where you are today? So you got the training as a peer support specialist, but
Hmm.
was what what inspired you to become a business owner?
Mm. In a nutshell, I always had that. That entrepreneur type of being was in me. I used to get in trouble all the time when I was in school because I had these little schemes. Or I remember being in the military and stationed in Virginia, and I would drive up around October to the garment district and buy a whole bunch of gear and all these like name brand foolishness if you ask me, but I'll go ahead and take my shipmates' bonus money if they want to pay for these jerseys and these hats and things like that. That was me all day. So, I mean, that's what I was used to. My parents are
Mm-hmm.
immigrants. I lived in New York. I'm not used to having one paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the business part of me. So I had been kind of dealing with that as well, as far as also just wanting my freedom while I'm trying to be a supportive military spouse and a mom and a bonus mom at the time with a husband who deploys quite a bit. And for me to leave the military, and one of the other diagnoses that I didn't mention earlier was I also left with PTSD because of some traumas that I went through while enlisted, which is why I did not re-enlist. So I came out with all of that. I was having issues actually holding jobs, not because I couldn't get them, but because I was just always irritated. I
Mm-hmm.
I do not do well being in a box with a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of people talking. I don't do good with cubicles. I need freedom.
Yeah.
Hence, any me getting any kind of odd job I could or volunteering. So when I finally, things got bad enough for me to start getting treatment and discovering nature therapy and veteran retreats, and I got introduced to peer support, they mentioned how to get it done. And we ended up traveling to Texas, moving to Texas. And I tried to connect with the VA here. And I actually left still in the government system and couldn't get a job, even with all of this training. So basically, it ended up just me not taking no for an answer and just like, okay, you're not going to help me. Well, I guess I'm just going to have to go around you and figure
Mm-hmm.
this out myself. So
Mm-hmm.
that meant even taking a job that I didn't care too much for, but using the money to, whenever I could, take these classes. And I
Mm-hmm.
was the only one there who was paying for it by themselves. There's just kind of, I felt salty about that. It's like, why can I never get supported to do
Yeah.
things I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy?
Yes.
And so I don't have enough experience to be in the mental health field so I can be in a job that would pay for my training. But then I'm here and they don't see the value of me getting the training, even though at one point I'm working for the city, I'm working with seniors and they don't
Mm-hmm.
see the purpose of me getting mental health things when I'm so good with data analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very difficult when you are working for people who don't have open minds to see how a holistic training can benefit everybody.
Yeah.
So you have to do it yourself. And so, of course, then COVID hit,
Mm-hmm.
and I witnessed just how little we matter in the
Mm-hmm.
job force.
Yeah.
I was watching it in real time and just soaking all that up. And because there was so much mental health, um, I guess you would say just crises during that time, realizing that this is something that I still wanted to do. But I will tell you the day that action started. I was at a rally. It was for MST, for military sexual trauma. I know the Pink Berets were out there
Mm-hmm.
and some other organizations. And this woman got up and she was with her son, her teenage son, telling her story, and he held her hand the whole time.
Mm,
And there were supporters, peer specialists, and other advocates out there. She told her story, and I heard something that shook me. As a response, they all said, "I believe you." And I just remember gasping, like,
yeah.
whoa. I
Yeah.
remember I had to leave. I was in pieces after that. And of course my friends
Well,
are calling,
I'm getting chills right now.
yeah, I believe you. And I'm like, man, when's the last time somebody said that to me, if ever? But it was not just one person saying it, just they almost like started chanting it. So
Mm,
that the in this case it was women who were talking about it really understood, yeah, you in a place where we're not dogging you out about this.
hmm
And that was a day I logged into we get a free, and this it doesn't seem to have a time limit. We get a free Coursera um, subscription as veterans.
hmm
And I got a certification from the Johns Hopkins University for psychological first aid.
Yeah.
And then I just started looking for anything else that had to do with that because I was just so taken aback. And then I went through Circle of Arms and I got the mental health first aid training.
hmm
And I ended up using that because I was also a disaster inspector for
hmm
FEMA. And it just became this thing that it became natural and enjoyable just to be able to know the right things to say and the wrong things also, but just to know what type of things people needs to hear in those moments when they are distraught.
hmm Oh man. Um, the the power in the words of "I believe you."
Mm,
Because as soon as you said those words, just chills
mhm,
came through my body. So I can imagine. I can just imagine what that experience was like for you.
yeah.
What what I've heard of what you said so far, I heard that you were someone who, if a door shut in your face, okay, I'm gonna go find
Mhm.
another entry.
And I'm not asking permission anymore. I'm done.
Where did that come from?
I attribute it to New York, to be honest with you. You know, my parents, like I said, they're immigrants. One's from Jamaica, one's from the Bahamas.
Mm,
Nothing comes easy, has ever come easy for us. And the no part for me I stopped accepting no once I started fighting for my mental health.
mm,
It was and understanding also that, especially when it comes to veterans, that it's almost I don't know if they learn this, but I feel like they tell us no with the intent of us quitting. And like as part of the process.
mm-hmm,
And so since I've accepted that, even when I have somebody come to me, they become our client or what have you, and if we're talking about whatever benefits, whether it's Social Security or VA benefits, I talk to them like we're going to war. Like, look at here. Step number one, I need you to understand you will more than likely be denied at least one time. I need you to be okay with is
yeah,
if you're okay with that, we can continue because
mm-hmm,
I need you to understand this is part of the game.
mm-hmm,
Yes, it sucks. Yes, it's terrible. We're not going to be able to change that part, but what you and I can change is the fact that we're not going to quit when we hear that first no.
yeah,
Because it depends on who you talk to, then what day, how they was feeling that day. I mean,
yes,
there's no continuity of anything when it comes
mm-hmm,
to these processes. And it's a shame, yes, and I can't fix that part. There's no
yeah,
way, not probably not in my lifetime, except to understand that for one, it's not personal.
mm-hmm.
And for two, we just gonna come back up. Like one of the monikers I recently took on myself was I'm a resourceful rebounder.
Oh,
It's like it's whatever. I
she's
feel
like
like
I get back up
it's I
every
feel
time.
like I would compare it to being Mike Tyson's sparring partner.
Mm-hmm,
Can you
mm-hmm.
imagine signing up for that? That's a
I
brave
can't.
man. I watched these dudes and I'm like, you chose this life? You chose this? But I had to give them props because they go in, yeah, they going in with the mentality, I'm about to get my behind whooped.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
had to at least protect the parts that won't destroy me, at least protect the face. Just
Yes.
and hold on to it, and sing a song or something, whatever, until let's get through these 3 minutes. But learn how to block, learn how to slip, learn how to
I
take the hit and
appreciate
it not
you.
destroy you.
Thank you for doing that because the first time going through the VA system and hearing the no, it
Yeah.
was like, but I'm a veteran.
Yeah.
You know?
So I thought, right? I'm over here for over 10 years. Like, I guess I'm not a veteran. Didn't even know.
Right?
And
Yeah.
and it took someone saying to me, seeing me crying in the parking lot or on the way to the
Mhm.
parking lot, what happened? Like they denied me again. Like, oh girl, they do that to everybody. Come on, let's go.
Mm,
Let's go ahead and do your appeal.
yeah.
I'm like, wait, what? Like, yeah, they do this all the time. Let's go. Don't even take it personally. Let's go. And what if I never ran into that person?
I know. And I was just sitting here thinking that like that was a God moment. I know that was a God moment. Like,
Absolutely.
let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. We're gonna reverse.
Yeah. And
Come
so
again.
that's what you're being for others. You're
Yeah.
being that person. Nuh-uh.
hmm
Come on, let's go.
Yep.
You will be. The door will be shut in your face
hmm
several times.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll sit with you in the waiting room. We're gonna just go write this appeal. We have it already ready. We know how they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Come with it. It's like the
Mm,
cheat code. It's like we already it's deja vu. We know how this is gonna go. We're
mm-hmm.
just gonna prepare for it. Because
Yeah.
when you don't have support, you don't know. I mean, we deal with the doctors
Mm-hmm.
and to realize that they don't even know most of the time. If they're even there for more than a year, you're lucky. They're
Mm-hmm.
contractors. They're in and out. They're going to get paid regardless. They will not remember you. Again, it's not the personal. It's
Mm-hmm.
not great, but again, it's not personal. So we had
Yeah.
to do what we had
Mm. Oh, thank you for that.
to do.
Okay, well, now let's shift to not just being a veteran, but as a Black woman.
Mhm.
What unique challenges and opportunities have you encountered in your various uh, roles, particularly within the military
Mm.
and also as a caregiver?
Oh,
Now times two.
times two, right? I can definitely say in the military taught me things that I never imagined as far as the way the world works.
Yeah.
When I first got to the school, they called me petty officer affirmative action, and I didn't even know what that meant.
Wow.
I remember vaguely, I was like, wasn't that an episode on a different world? And then I remember trying to go find the episode again, trying to understand what it meant. And talking to the one of the lawn people, he was a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
what does this mean? And he told me what it was, and I remember getting very angry
Yeah.
because they were saying that I didn't belong there, that I somehow skipped some steps. Like, for one,
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't easy for me anyway. But because it wasn't easy for me, they're trying to say that I never deserved or I didn't earn or I didn't pass these tests to even get there. So coming from New York, which yeah is a hard place, but I grew up with every culture you can think of. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't experience racism until those moments. And I
Yeah.
say those moments because it was definitely not my entirety of my career. That's not what it was. But I never had to work with racist people before,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I did, but who were outwardly and just in your face with it, like you
Yeah.
don't belong here, that type of thing. So that made it difficult. Also, it made me realize too, just how different the school curriculums are,
Mm.
right? Because these guys, they were used to seeing these things that I never saw before.
Yeah.
So even though I was the pseudo smart kid, even though I graduated from an alternative school, I still hadn't been exposed
Yeah.
to anything besides basic algebra when I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
Versus these guys, they were okay with the calculus and the physics and all those things. And I'm learning it in real time right now. But this
Mm-hmm.
was foreign to me, so it was more difficult.
Yeah.
And of course, in any place, especially being that young and scared and frustrated and intimidated and not having any person who looks like you to talk to about it
Mm-hmm.
is
Oh,
a very lonely feeling
yes, it
because
is.
you don't know if the chief that you're talking to, if he believes that you don't belong here either.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of don't want to have to ask them for help, but this is what it is. But I ended up having some really, you need a few. I had a select few really cool white guys who came and helped me, and the elements of studying that I practiced there, I use to this day because
Mm-hmm.
now that I understand my learning style and what works for me, that's
Mm-hmm.
what I use. So that was the difficult part then, as far as the color of my skin. As far as business, again, it comes to exposure. It's just like how you were talking about why I share resources so frequently. We just don't get the same information that everybody else gets. It's like it depends on your zip code,
Yeah.
these things. I remember at one point working, this is before I came back to Texas and all that and got married. One of the first jobs I had out of the military was working as a claims adjuster.
Mm-hmm.
And all of us were around what 20 something years old, whatever. But and of course I'm the only black person. What is that, right? We ended up talking one day about investments, and all of them had all this knowledge about investments, and they've been doing this for years. And I'm
Yeah.
just, how did you guys learn it? Oh, our whole family does this. We did this in school, blah, 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 blah. They had all these portfolios at like 21, 22, and 23.
Wow.
And I'm like, I got introduced to stocks because I got in trouble, had to go to summer school, and our substitute teacher was reading the Wall Street Journal and taught me how to read. That's how
Mm.
I found out
Yeah.
about investments,
Just by chance.
just by chance
Yeah.
and by exposure to someone who was willing to teach me, and that of
Mm-hmm.
course I had the the curiosity for it.
Mm-hmm.
But we we have very low expectations for ourselves as a community and what we're able to do.
Yeah.
We do not understand credit. We
Right.
do not have financial education
Mm-hmm.
the way that other communities do. And of course, collectively, we suffer with having a hard time uniting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just the truth.
That's the
I'm not gonna,
reality. Mm-hmm.
yeah, because and of course there is a distrust, and at times there is, unfortunately, times that we lack in our customer service, which
Mm-hmm.
makes it very difficult. I want to build my community, but I also had to realize is not all skin folk are kinfolk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The amount of, oh, why would you charge me what you charge everybody else is irritating.
Mm-hmm.
But I
I've been
also know
there.
that's a person that I'm not supposed to work with. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna keep doing this with you because we have no problem. Oh, it says we have 10 minutes. We have no problem spending too much on something that does not appreciate, but then all of a sudden, knowing that we all have the same bills here,
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed
Mm-hmm.
to give a discount. But I didn't get a discount on all this training, I'll tell you what.
Right?
I didn't get a discount on going to these places to learn all these resources, to put this online, to do all this work. I didn't get a discount on any of that. It took
Mm-hmm.
my time, which is how valuable is that?
Yeah. You have what I call grit. You're
Mhm.
someone that so many times you could have thrown in the towel.
Mhm.
So many times, but you didn't. And so do you feel like that's something that your parents nurtured in you, or was it something that you just had to learn along the way?
You're gonna laugh, and that's okay. I attribute that part of me to being a nerd. One
Well,
of
I
the things,
love it.
Yeah, one of the things that I tried to teach my kids, especially growing up, was that in games teach us that sometimes to get from point A to point B, you're gonna have to change up the way you do things. You're gonna have to go around.
Hmm.
And gamers know that when you're playing a game, it's almost a rookie move to go directly to what's in front of you. If you're a real gamer, you actually, oh, if I'm supposed to go right, I'm gonna turn left first and see what I'm missing, what kind of secret stuff is back over here to the left. That
Hmm.
will make my life easier for once I do get to point B.
My daughter
And
had to teach me that.
yeah, yeah. Whether it's sometimes, you know what, every time I hold down this button to do this jump, I don't make it right. Oh, you know what, let me time it differently.
Hmm.
So it's puzzles, it's how can I still get there? Those type of things. I honestly attribute that to games.
Okay. All right. And that's the I feel like there's a benefit in some ways to gaming,
Mhm.
because I'll talk to my kids because they love their games, and I'll talk to them like, why did you do that? And then they'll go on this long dissertation of, well, this is why you do this, mom. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So
Mhm.
it does do some things, some good things to their brain.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, given that we only have a few more minutes,
Right.
because we had some technical issues earlier,
Mhm.
I I I want folks to be able to know more about your business,
Okay.
peer support services. So I'm going to include the link to your website, so they can get connected to you. If it's okay if I include like your LinkedIn so people can get
Absolutely.
connected.
Absolutely. And
But
I just started putting things on the YouTube channel, trying to get my resources there, trying to get some subscribers, hint, wink, this.
okay, okay. Well,
And
I will
views.
include that as well.
Trying to get those residual incomes so I can have more time
Yes.
to do things that I enjoy, to learn from people, go on adventures. You talked about me being a resource, and that's the thing, you are a resource for me. Everybody that you meet knows something that you need to know. I
Yeah.
truly believe,
Yeah. I agree
and
with
that's
that.
exactly. So I love talking to people. I always
You
learn something.
do.
I
And that's
do.
what I love about you. You do.
Yeah, my husband's like, "How you a New Yorker?" Well, I'm first of all, I'm happy right now, and then when I go to New York, I'm a little different.
You got to
I
tone it
I
down.
feel safe right now in my skin. I
Hmm.
still talk to people, but it's when in Rome or when in New York, you got to do what you got to do.
I know. I'm from East Texas, born and raised, and so
Mhm,
when I went upstate New York, and so we visited the city, I was smiling and everybody, and folks were
mhm.
just not having it. I'm like, everyone's so mean.
It's I got spoiled after I left New York,
Hmm.
so I feel like I'm living a softer life compared
Mm,
to what I grew up in.
yeah,
I don't have to be hard all the time. It's
right.
exhausting for one.
Yeah.
It's no good for your body. So I'm
All
not.
right. All right. You deserve that softness.
Yeah.
One last question before you go.
Sure.
All right. So, considering your experiences and the insight that you've gained along the way, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
Embrace the suck, as we say. Lean into it. Uh,
Hmm.
you understand that it's part of your origin story. Again, nerd.
Mm,
If you don't have these scars, you won't have some story to tell. And scars are reminders of things that you have, like you mentioned, grit. It's things that you have survived.
yeah.
And it's
Okay.
it's like I keep looking up because I did a kintsugi plate. Kintsugi, if you're familiar with it, with the
Yeah.
gold. Put some gold on them scars.
Oh,
They're beautiful.
yeah.
They're beautiful because you going through that is going to be a blessing to somebody else. That's been the wildest part of all the no's and the rejections and the things that I didn't like so much, to be at a point that sharing it actually helps heal, not just myself, but other folk,
Mhm.
is a huge responsibility that I feel like I've been blessed with.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So it's like embrace the suck. I like that. It's like
Mhm.
lean into the discomfort.
Mhm. It's like a
Okay.
wave,
Yeah.
like a wave. That's what I learned from surfing. I took a
Hmm.
surfing class, and
Of
basically,
course you did.
of course I did. It was free. It was free. So yes, I did it. It was for military. But what I've found is when you're on a surfboard and the waves are coming and it's going to pull you first, if you're trying to pull away from it, you're going to fall off. But if you actually
Hmm.
tighten your core,
Hmm.
take a deep breath like with yoga, right?
Hmm.
And lean towards the wave, you get to stand up.
Okay. I
It's
don't know if I'll ever do that, but okay, I can envision that. Can
Yeah,
picture that.
yep. Go towards
Maybe
it to go
maybe
through it.
start on like a small little wave.
Well, yeah.
Thank
Because
you
they're
so much,
powerful too.
Ayana.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
worries. Yeah.
This has been great. I appreciate you for taking
Absolutely.
the time out of your busy schedule to just meet with me, to just talk about, you know, what I consider is this is part of recovery. This is recovery. This is what recovery looks like,
Right.
and sometimes people have a hard time connecting with it. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to show them this is what it looks like. It looks like living life.
I appreciate that. And,
Yeah.
and let me just say this too. Recovery is circular.
Mm.
Your girl got still has bad days. I need to let that be known. It
Yes.
doesn't it's just my toolbox. I got some tools now, boy. I got
Hmm.
I got different outfits and costumes and whatever I have to do to get back to
Yes.
level. It just doesn't destroy my weeks like it used to. I won't stay in bed for days like I used to. I'm, I even give myself a time limit now. Okay, you are allowed. You and depression can hang out for, I'm gonna give y'all 30 minutes, maybe 35. Then we're gonna check in. Then I'm gonna make sure you're drinking some water. Then we're gonna keep doing this, but we are not. And yes, I talk to my depression and I talk to my
Hmm.
other parts. What we're not gonna do
Yeah.
is act like we haven't worked very hard so we can still see some of the sunlight, so we can still enjoy the days and our peoples, so we can go out to eat and have good times and meet people.
There you go. Thank you so much. I want us to get off before it just shuts off on us, but
Absolutely.
thank you so much,
Okay.
Ayana.
All right, no
All
problem.
right. Bye bye.
Bye.